Shooting USA is brought to you by SnapSafe and the full line of affordable security products from modular safes to lockboxes. Save 15% with code SUSA15 at snapsafe.com.
Welcome again to the Shooting USA YouTube channel. We're glad you're here. An interesting factoid, some of our more popular videos see as many as 75 or 80% of you are not subscribed to our channel. If you like the content you're seeing, please honor us with a subscription. And if you're interested in full-length current episodes of Shooting USA after it airs on the network, there's a link in this video's description to our Vimeo channel. Now, here's the content you came to see.
I suspect most of us see things around us and imagine they've always been what they are today. If you're from Cleveland, Ohio, you surely know the IX Center, one of the world's largest convention centers. You can't miss it, it's huge. But 75 years ago, it wasn't an exposition center. It was part of the arsenal of democracy, first building bombers for World War II and then tanks for the Korean War. History remembered in a homecoming for both the vehicles and the people who built them. When Bill Mexner returned home from the Korean War, he needed a job. He visited the site tasked with producing some of those same tanks used in the war.
I said, I'd like to be a test driver. And they said, okay, report Monday morning. So I showed up Monday morning and they said, Bill, we got a little problem. And I said, what's the problem? They said, well, we got plenty of drivers. We'd really like to have you work out in the hangars as a mechanic. I said, okay.
Mexner worked on tanks like the M41 Walker Bulldog, designed in 1949 and produced by Cadillac from 51 to 1954. Over 5,000 Walkers were manufactured. It replaced the M24 Chaffee tanks and could carry a crew of 4: the commander, the gunner, the loader, and the driver.
I set governors on them, did all kinds of things. Kind of a reunion. Well, there's so much history here. You talk to some of these people, and so many of them worked here, so many of them were in the service. Hey, I worked on that vehicle, or I drove that vehicle, you know. I hauled this, I did that. You know, it brings back so many memories.
The facility opened in 1942, originally intended to build B-29 bombers. It soon transitioned from producing plane parts to completely building tanks. From here came the M41 Walker Bulldog, named for the late General Walton Walker. The M56 Scorpion, which was manufactured in the mid to late 50s. The M109 Howitzer, made in the 1960s and first used in the Vietnam War. And the M42 Duster, which was originally designed as an anti-aircraft tank and was in service until 1988. Now, the building is home to the Cleveland IX Center, one of the largest convention centers in the country, with more than 2 million square feet of space.
It's the history of Cleveland, with the bomber plant to the tank plant, the amount of people that worked here, lived in the Cleveland area, and did everything in the building here. Just a great fit for young and old, kids especially.
Nearly 20,000 people attended the homecoming show, many of them kids eager to see, learn, and feel a piece of American history.
Well, I believe education is the word. I don't think children today in school are getting much of an education. You talk about World War II and Korean War, and a lot of them don't even know about the Korean War. Of course, they know more about the Vietnam War, and they should really learn.
I was watching, looking, the kids getting up, hands-on, parents explaining what vehicles they were, where they were used. You know, you see a little kid up there, you know, basically hanging on to the handles of a .50 caliber machine gun. It's pretty awesome. It's cool.
Mary Seaman also worked at the Cleveland tank plant. She was one of the youngest employees and worked in the basement. Women were not allowed on the factory floor.
There was an assistant superintendent, general foreman, and foreman, and I had to work for all of them and do filing. We filed blueprints in different forms for each foreman.
Even in the basement, Mary always knew when the tanks were being test driven.
The walls, the windows were loose because the vibration was so strong. But they would park them in front of the offices, and then when they would start them up again, the vibration was really strong.
One of the sponsors of the Homecoming Show is the online video game World of Tanks.
When you see a Sherman right in front of you, you go, wow, that is a big tank. World of Tanks is just super excited to be here at this really awesome event, helping support some people who restore these kind of vehicles and really you focus on the history, because a big part of our game is historical accuracy and really reminding people of how crazy these vehicles are as the technical achievements.
From the original World of Tanks in Cleveland, Ohio. But tanks were just the beginning of the history on display at the IX Center. Coming up, more military vehicles, lots more, from the Military Vehicles Preservation Association. That's next. The Cleveland Tank Homecoming doubled as the 42nd Annual Military Vehicles Preservation Association Convention. Well, that brought in collectors to show off their military interests, from Jeeps to trucks to half-tracks, even missile launchers. Some 250 vehicles, all painted in olive drab. John Cheney is the event director for the MVPA. Along with his father, they have about 42 vehicles in their collection.
Our first piece between my father and myself, which we do this together, was 52 3/4 ton Dodge Power Wagon. And it just kind of escalated from there. 1, 2, 3 vehicles. In 10 years, we might have had 20. We're approximately 42 vehicles right now, 8 rockets and missiles.
Cheney got his start with his hobby by working at a local airport when he was younger.
Myself, I never served in the military, but I've made up for that because I serve in 4 different military organizations that support veterans. But myself, my first job was at an airport where we used retired military vehicles, and I was always wrenching on them, and it just went from there.
His newest and perhaps rarest piece is this M553 Goer. It's an articulated 8-ton 4x4. The Goer is an extreme off-road vehicle. Cheney found it in a barn after a friend brought it to his attention.
We pulled it out of the field a month and a half ago. We took enough time to get the engine running and scrape the loose paint off it, and we brought it to the show just for people to see. They only made 117 of them.
Cheney's story is a familiar one for most collectors. It starts with the first vehicle and seems to grow from there.
That's the 6th one that I restored. And the 5th one, a museum purchased, and then I found this one ready for restoration. That's a nasty combination because you got an empty shop, a pocket full of money, and a Jeep to work on. It's like, it's a dream come true.
Ren Bernier restored this Jeep, nicknamed Sweet Pea, in 2000.
This vehicle is done to appear as it would have been during World War II. It was built on April 20th of 1942.
As you can imagine, restoring a vehicle takes a lot of time and effort.
What's involved with that? Completely disassembling, sandblasting it, painting it, fixing what's incorrect and such, and then re-outfitting it and rewiring it, putting it back together.
Adam Buck has been working on restoring Jeeps with his dad for the last decade.
We like to find the original unrestored Jeeps because they're so unique, and we want to preserve them and show people this is how they were, and just try and educate those and display them.
They brought a 1945 Willys MB Jeep to the show. It still has the original tires on it and just 6,000 miles.
We bought it about 10, 12 years ago from the original family. We bought it from the government surplus in a crate. It never left the country. It's got the original tires on it, original canvas seats. It was painted probably in 1946, and under that is the original military paint.
While restored Jeeps may be the most popular choice of World War II vehicle collectors, some more unusual Army vehicles were showcased as well. This is an M16A1 half-track. Mounted on board is an M45E1 Maxim anti-aircraft gun and 4 .50 caliber machine guns. With that kind of firepower, the half-track was used as infantry support in the Korean War. Also on display, this amphibious landing craft, the LVT. which was used in the filming of Flags of Our Fathers, directed by Clint Eastwood. In addition to all the vehicles on display at the show, there were exhibits designed to give kids a hands-on experience.
This military MASH unit that's set up here, the gentleman asked, hey, did you ever want to be in the military? And he walks them through. He goes, first you need a hat, cover your head, and it'll cover your butt. Then you need a flak jacket. And he puts them all in the dress, all the way up as being a medevac person. And it's amazing.
Educating kids and creating a bond between old and young is one of the show's main goals.
I cannot tell you how many times I've been to a show over the last 15 years, and we're displaying a vehicle like this, and a World War II or a Korean vet will walk up to me, and he'll just beam and just smile, and his kids will be with him. He'll come up. This is what I used to serve on when I was in Korea. And let me show you where I used to hide when they shell us. And they would just go through all these amazing stories. Personally, I love that. That's what I want to see.
Military collectors doing their best to keep history alive for veterans and their families.
Well, you've made it to the end of another Shooting USA video on YouTube, and for that, we thank you. It does help the channel if you subscribe, like, and comment. And that will help us keep the content coming.